All right. Let's see if Club Deck will actually let me get in the room. I don't know what's happening here. Club Deck is being a little crazy. Let's try this again. Let's open that. Now we go. Here we are. Now we're in the room. There we are.
Okay, you sound good. You sound good.
Club Deck was being a little bit weird. It wouldn't let me in.
That's not nice.
I know.
Well, Tom, this is the room. We talk Clubhouse, publishing, podcasting, and social media. We got Cammie there. Cammie, pleasure to meet you. If you want to come up, we're just getting started here. So we do this room every week. We have a club. That's correct, right?
That is correct. We have a club. We have a couple hundred members in the club these days. 200. 232 members. So we're trending up.
And it was people like our dear friend Julie, I see, that just popped in, that told us to get a club.
Yeah. I think it was Julie and Michael. Lozier were the big proponents initially of beating that drum, hitting us in the head with that idea.
And we didn't because we don't sell anything here. We're not like pitching you to buy our widgets or anything like that. So we thought it was like, even like our club is co-branded. You see, it doesn't say like Talex Media or Motivation Champs on it. It's just a place to talk Clubhouse, publishing, podcasting, social media. You started telling me Tom's a very highly intelligent guy, and sometimes he starts telling me like things he researched, and it takes me like a day to think about all that he is telling me. So, Tom, you started down this road of Paramount Accords. What is Paramount Accords?
Yeah, so I'm gonna give me 1 second here. First of all, your flattery did not go unnoticed. Thank you. I don't know about all that. I don't know about how wildly intelligent I am. I just pay attention to a lot of things. So I was talking about, started talking about the Paramount Accords. I'm just pinging some folks here. And I'm glad Dr. Tachi's here, because I wanted her to be here when we started talking about this, because I think it's something super interesting. And I believe, I'll say right now, and I'll say it live, right? Because we are live as usual on Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn and Twitter and Twitch and beyond. I will say it here live. I believe that the sunsetting of the Paramount Accords is going to change the media landscape going forward. And I think it's going to have an impact, a lasting impact, for a number of years into the future. So I just pinged a bunch of people. So now that I'm done with that, let me go ahead and sort of dive into a little bit of a explanation on what the Paramount Accords are. And then I'll go into an explication on what I think the impact is going to be. So the Paramount Accords were the result of an antitrust case that was brought against the 5 big studios in Hollywood in 1948. And what happened was, essentially, at the time, the 5 big studios, which I don't remember all 5 to list off, but Paramount Pictures, MGM, 20th Century Fox, I think Warner Brothers, and RKO. I think those were the big 5. Anyway, they essentially controlled all 3 phases of the film industry. So they controlled production, they controlled distribution, and they controlled exhibition, because they owned all the movie theaters at the time too. So they had what was called, what's referred to as vertical integration in an industry, right? So they controlled everything from sort of start to finish, which meant that they controlled 100% controlled. Those 5 studios controlled every film that came out of the film industry, right? And who got to see those films and whether or not they got funded. And so in 1948, there was an antitrust case brought against the Big Five. And the end result of that antitrust case was that um, uh, exhibition in particular went to independents, right? And so we had independent movie theaters. They were forced to divest from those investments, and they no longer controlled all phases of production. And that led to sort of a revolution in the film and television industry that allowed for a lot more independent and a wider variety of productions to actually get made, right? It gave rise to the independent film industry, essentially. So, uh, those accords were still in place. Like that decision was still in place. The ruling was still in place until August of this year. So in 2020, they instituted a 2-year sunsetting time frame for the end of the Paramount Accords, right? And so in August of this year, last month, the Paramount Accords ceased to govern or restrict film studios and production houses from controlling all phases of production, from production to distribution and onto exhibition. And we're seeing that now with like the merger of Warner and Discovery, right? So we've got like Discovery Plus, and we've got ABC controlling, ABC Disney controlling Disney Plus and the originals there, and et cetera, et cetera. So they're controlling all phases at this point, right? So essentially, what I believe that means going forward is three things, right? So the net effect of that is going to be twofold. We're going to see contraction in the amount of content that's being produced, right, by these big studios. Warner Brothers recently just shelved a film in order to take a tax break on it, right? So they shelved it. They never released it. It was completely finished. They shelved it so that they could write it off on their take it off of their, so they didn't earn any income and they could take it as a loss against their earnings, so they could maximize profitability for their shareholders, right? So we've got studios starting to do things like that, playing with content as a way to maximize profits, right? So it's going to constrict the amount of stuff being produced. It's going to lead to greater what's the right conjugation of that word? It's going to make content more homogenous. We'll say it that way, so that way I get the right conjugation of it. But it's going to make content more homogenous because it's going to limit the number of content producers there are, right? So like we're kind of back to a big five. So there's going to be like a bunch of stuff that all is kind of very same, right? And includes like the biggest stars, and they're only going to want to produce stuff that is sort of a sure bet. So like The Rock is going to do really well, but like independent films and new directors are going to suffer, right? Their stuff isn't going to get made, right? But people who are a box office sure thing are going to get a lot of play, right, going forward in this sort of homogenous content that we're going to see coming out of these producers. And then I think that what that means for the rest of us is, for those of us in the media space, there's going to be a gap to fill, right? Because studios are going to be focused on maximizing profits for shareholders, and they're not going to be focused on actually delivering things that their audience wants to see, right? So there are going to be huge gaps that can be filled by smaller independent producers. And I think businesses, brands, are going to be perfectly positioned to fill those gaps with content that their audience needs and wants, but they aren't getting anymore because there's less drive for big studios to listen to what people want to watch. Right. So like, I think there's a huge opportunity going forward with the sunsetting of these Paramount Accords. And it's going to be years before any of this gets unraveled and set back to the way it should be. Right. So this is going to be, for the next several years, there's going to be a huge opportunity for brands and businesses to capitalize on this content vacuum that's left behind as we see constriction and homogeneity. I think you can say that in the content that comes out of sort of these big studios that control production, distribution, and exhibition of their own, of the content, of the majority of the sort of big commercial content. So that's what the Paramount Accords are all about. But it's interesting because we're seeing a shift in the media landscape, and I think it's opening up a lot of possibilities and potential for businesses going forward and brands to capitalize on that. So that's what I was hinting at. Just that brief explanation that took me 10 minutes.
It's all right to get us understanding of it. I think it's good to have a Tom break it down for us the way that only Tom can break it down for us. And I am a believer as a content producer, as a publisher, who one of our things that we do is really try to control content in some aspect, like it's having control of the story so that we can share it in different ways. I believe that low cost stories, there's a lot of beautiful stories out there that could be told without an explosion. There's a lot of beautiful stories that could be told on one street or in one house. So the content we focus on when we're sharing our inspirational stories is those, if we're going to move into that realm right now, because like Tom's saying, it they want another Avengers. Avengers, the first three Avengers worked, and Johnny could talk about this. The first Thor was the biggest Thor ever. You put another Thor out, you already have a base of people. So what are these big studios willing to take a risk on? Are they? Well, yeah, Tom shaking his head. Not a lot.
Nothing. They're
So
not taking. They're
so
not going to take risks.
yeah. So what if we give them? So my belief is giving them content that is more affordable to produce, and that's where I hope to land in that. Where hey, well, we need a mother and a son. We need this. We need two peoples on bicycles crossing the Sahara. Whatever. So okay, doc. Let's get to Dr. Tachi. Dr. Tachi, hit on this, and then Dr. Tachi, I was watching your show about unboxing, and so I want you to touch on the larger theme of unboxing, if you will. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here, Julie, Kyle, Jackie, McB, Brian P. Swift, and everybody. Where it's the conversation. We do this every Wednesday. Who knows where the conversation is going to go? We got lots to talk about today. So, Dr.
And
Tachi,
I've already hijacked things.
yeah, you did all right though. See, we learned something. We left, and we learned if we leave right now, which everybody did when they heard that story. They, Dr. Tachi, go on.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, somebody was reading my mind this morning because I love this. I am geeking and nerding out over all of this because this is exactly when I teach a film class. This is what we talk about, these types of things. So I'm loving this. So this is what I think in terms of what's going to happen. This is actually going to, because let's be clear, even before the expiration of the Paramount Accords and this Paramount decision, they were already frugal. And by frugal, I don't mean not necessarily spending money, but just frugal in terms of who they let in. Hollywood works with who they know. And if they don't know you, they're probably not going to work with you. So, as many hopefuls as there are out there, I always look at them like, my dear, you're better off producing something on your own, because if you think they're going to sit there and spend money on somebody they don't know, and not to be mean, but that's just not how it works. And Tom knows that very well. So, I think that this is actually going to lead, as it has been, to a rise of not only independent content, but independent content distribution platforms. OTT is already becoming bigger and bigger. All you have to do is look at now there are companies that actually work with you, being able to create your own OTT platform. And in a way, if you piecemeal it
And
together,
Dr. Tachi, hold
yeah,
on here. Tell us, for laymen like me, what does OTT mean?
I'm so sorry. So OTT means over the top. And over the top is basically bypassing your cable systems, your broadcasting systems, and through streaming, allowing you to get content directly to the consumer without going through a third party like a CNN or whatever the cable network would be, or a broadcast network. So now you can go to something like, okay, Roku, right? That's considered over the top. Amazon Fire is over the top. Even at one point, Netflix and Hulu, those were over the top streamers now, but now they're, in a way, it feels more mainstream. So you can go and do these things yourself. And you could even you could have been piecemealing things and just use something like an encoder like a Restream or whatever. And if you're willing to sit there and schedule stuff out, you could have stuff running 24 hours a day if you wanted. So we could be our own distribution system. So I'm anticipating a rise in more over the top streamers coming out because of that. And this is another thing, and it's more of a question more than of a prediction. Are we willing to take less money for these things? Because the whole thing of content creation is predicated on you have to make X, Y, Z. And I understand why that is, because when we look at the Hollywood industry, it's based on unions, and you do have to make a certain amount. And I agree with that. But does as much profit need to be made? And I think that's part of the problem. And that's part of the problem also when we talk about the decline in movie houses and things like that. What was it? Regal filing for bankruptcy and all these things because of the fact that they're beholden to shareholders and they have to make all this money. But make as much money as we do and be effective and live. Just wondering. That's just a question. And I release the mic.
Dr. Tachi, thank you. I was on a production recently, and the budget was $4,000 a minute. And that was for the given day of something they've filmed for months and months and months. 4,000, that wasn't minute filmed. That was minute per the whole day long on a given day with hundreds of people there and cameras and things like that. Somebody figure that out. What's that? What's a 12-hour day at $4,000 a minute? I don't know. It's a lot of money.
That's $48,000.
A minute, or no? It's got to be more than that. That's a minute was $4,000. So every 60 minutes, 60 times 4,000.
Oh, per minute. Sorry.
Yes, per minute.
Yeah, that's too much. That's what it is.
there you go, right, Brian? That's too.
What production was this?
I don't want to say out loud, but it was for Paramount.
So, okay, because that's what is that? $4,000 a minute. That's like $240,000.
Yeah, it was one of the. What is that? 4,000 a minute. 4,000 times times 60? Is that what?
Oh no, $24,000 an hour.
I think it
not 240.
No, 40.
This is why we're content creators, because we can't do math.
Exactly.
Somebody figure that out. Somebody get your calculator out.
I'm getting the calculator out.
Okay, 4,000 a minute times 60 minutes.
240,000.
It's 240 times. Yeah, that's that's almost $3 million a day for a 12-hour day.
It's insane.
So unless that's a full, that's a very large production.
It's one of the biggest series on Paramount.
Even then, I still think that number's too high. But that's
crazy. That's what was going down the river. So, I mean, break it down. Insane, man. So whether they're telling different things but just the ballpark and what the money's being spent. Imagine what's spent on Fast and the Furious, where they're in a billion. Holy cow.
Can I add one more thing? To your point, Dominick, when you were talking about everything doesn't have to be an explosion. I think that's another thing that we're going to start to see, that if you can't rely on an explosion to draw people in or extreme CGI, then we have to get back to storytelling that is compelling. And I'm not saying that those don't have compelling stories. Absolutely. All you have to do is look at Big Black Panther and love the story and everything. But I think you can still tell a story without mortgaging several homes to do that. So I think that we're probably going to see a return back to some simplicity so there'll be very few big blockbusters, but a whole bunch of simple stories that are told in one or two rooms because it's more cost effective.
And that's Dr. Tachi. That's exactly the space where I see the opportunity for brands to deliver that value for audiences, tie that value to their brands, and use it to help grow their businesses. Just saying.
I agree.
This is good stuff. Dr. Tachi, we're coming back to you on the unboxing. We're going to go to Julie. Hey, and I will say back, Tom, on that day where it was 4,000 a minute, they spent 50,000 on snacks that day just to have a service, not even the catered lunch for the 400 people on set or anything like that, just for snacks. Insane. Julie,
well, my friend Chris just commented on Facebook and said that he saw a figure of 21 million per episode for the new Game of Thrones series on HBO, which probably is all inclusive of like salaries and, you know, for the featured actors and all of that. But still, I mean, that's a crazy number.
It's insane. Julie, go on. You see what we get crazy here. We talk about all kinds of stuff. Tom got us started. What do we got today? Julie, that controls all media, has so many followers. She said not followers. She has friends and networks and things like this, but there's legions of followers too.
Community.
Like community. I'm a Julie follower though. I don't, if she allows me. If she allows me in her community, I'm appreciative, but I would consider myself a follower. Go on, Julie.
Stop. We're friends. We're friends, Tom. I have no idea. I have nothing to add to this topic, but what I do know is that I'm done with OTT. Yeah, you know me. I'm not the oldest person in the room.
I love it.
I got it. I got you. I'm right there with you. I get it, Julie.
Thanks, Tom. Tom's like, what are you
come on. Hey, so on the OTT, Dr. Tachi, do you consider, I saw Martin Scorsese the other day, a little video, and he said, for producers out there today, he said, you have the most powerful thing. You have the most powerful thing for distribution. And he pulled out his phone and he was like, use this. And he actually said, put it on YouTube. Something would you consider OTT? Yeah, Joe. OTT, yeah. Dr. Tachi, is YouTube considered OTT?
In a sense, yes. More so when they actually had, in a sense, yeah, it is. But I think YouTube behaves differently. Tom could probably speak to that as well. But I think YouTube behaves differently than what is considered OTT because YouTube has a lot of user-generated content. And generally, when we're talking about OTT, we're talking about an agency that puts out content bypassing third parties, which YouTube is, but it's several different people. I don't know what Tom thinks, but
yeah, I mean, YouTube does behave differently than like what I would think of with OTT. When I think of OTT, I think of like Roku, Crackle, Hulu, you know, those kinds of interfaces, like those platforms. That's what I think of when I think of OTT. YouTube is kind of its own animal to some extent. And even Vimeo too, which is sort of the oft overlooked sort of, you know, step sibling of YouTube, but is used for kind of different purposes. You know, I wouldn't call it OTT either because again, it's a lot of it is user generated content. So whereas like Hulu or Crackle or Roku are like are more akin to, they're sort of the digital solution or the digital answer to traditional distribution, like the sort of when you think of the big three, NBC, ABC, CBS, like when you think of them, they're sort of the 21st century version of those things. It's a more traditional distribution method or methodology than YouTube is. But yeah, I mean, we all have the ability to distribute our own content, right? And to reach our own audiences. And that's why I think this contraction that I see coming, that we already are seeing start to happen, and the writing, I believe, is on the wall for. I mean, I said about 10 years ago, I said that cable companies in the future were going to be in the business of providing internet service, and they were not going to be actual broadcasters anymore, distributors anymore of content. And that's exactly what we're seeing happen as more and more people, quote unquote, cut the cord, right? They're not subscribing to traditional cable services anymore. They're actually just streaming via the internet service that's provided by their cable company. Well, eventually Cablevision or Spectrum or whoever you have for your cable service isn't even going to supply cable service anymore because there isn't going to be enough money in it. They're just going to be an internet service provider, right? And so I think what we're seeing now with the sunsetting of the Paramount Accords and this contraction in the industry is, and the fact that this is sort of green lighting. Before this sort of behavior was happening a bit on the fringe because the Paramount Accords were still in effect, and there was the opportunity that people could bring suit against these major distributors because of those accords. But now that they've been sunsetted, it's sort of like, okay, we don't have to do this on the fringe anymore. We don't have to kind of hide it in the shadows or pretend like we're not really doing this. We can just go to town on this kind of behavior to try to maximize profits for our shareholders. And so that's what they're going to do. And yeah, as we see this contraction happening more and more, and this homogenization of content, we're gonna increasingly see people turn to alternate channels for the kind of content they want to see, the kind of stories they want to consume, and the value that they get from the content that they're not getting from the big distributors anymore. So that's kind of where I think this is all going.
It almost is similar to the self-publishing model where 15 years ago, people decided, wait, I don't need this publisher that might not answer my phone or that's going to take 80% of my royalties when I already have a brand or a message. And you see people like David Goggins, who, if any of you know Goggins using self-publishing to put out a book rather than sign. He could have signed, they would have gave him $5 million, $1 million to write their book or whatever. And instead, he probably made $50 million selling books and continues to make because he distributed it himself. Okay, go.
Well,
Tom,
and
go on.
isn't there a big merger discussion in the publishing world right now with like Penguin Random House and somebody else
Yeah,
potentially merging?
I think it just went through, but
Oh, did it?
yeah, now that you say that, the same can be said. I think the government is saying antitrust here. I think it's Penguin and Simon and Schuster.
Oh, yeah, it's Penguin Random House and Simon and Schuster. Yeah, because it gives them too much control over the entire industry, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Who knows? Okay, let's Clubhouse, publishing, podcasting, and social media. Got some cool peeps here. Thanks for stopping by. Peeps, cool word.
Haven't heard that in a while.
Peeps is a cool word, but not good to eat. My daughter opened up a pack of peeps that over the pandemic that we were looking through. I had like old G.I. Joe guys and stuff like that, and we were looking through them. And there was a pack of peeps and Pez and all kind of stuff there. And she ate a peep that was like 20 years old. So, and she said it still tasted all right. Anyway,
I don't buy it.
Yeah, that's what she said. But okay, one of the things I wanted to talk about too, and anybody that wants to jump in on this, we're going to hit Maccabee. But adding things like you're like, oh, we're all saying add this, add video, add publishing, add Instagram, add TikTok, add. I was on Snapchat for a week, 2 weeks, and I quit Snapchat. I hated Snapchat. It wasn't for me. Now, it might be the best app ever. But if anybody wants to jump in over adding things, deleting things, are there too many? Too many that you can't handle? Too many that maybe you're not good at? Or should you keep going? So Maccabee, and I think that's how I pronounce this, Maccabee. You hear what we're talking about, so introduce yourself and have at it.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. So, yes, my name is Maccabee Griffin. I'm a voiceover actor, a podcaster, and a character creator and developer for authors, content writers, and anybody that just really wants to see what a character is like from an actor's point of view. For me, yeah, I'm like you, Dominick. It's just there's way too many things within the social media accounts, as well as just pretty much anything and everything when we're trying to get the word out about our podcast, our books, whatever the case may be, our creations. And unless there was a statement, unless you are the biggest and the loudest person with a bankroll behind you, you're not going to be seen as much and you're going to struggle. And for some reason, sometimes I believe that, but other times I'm just too stubborn to give up on it. And I feel like if the story is there, and it's going to connect with people, then it's going to, as I say, go viral. Um, so for me, I really think that we need to figure out what's going to work the best for us and what's not, because as someone who doesn't really have a bankroll behind his brand yet, it's really the understanding that I have to know what's going to work and what's not going to work, and I'm not going to spend hundreds of dollars on something that is not going to work continuously until maybe I get where Julie's at right now with all her friends. But I'm going to do the best I can with what I got, and pray to God that it is His will that it's going to um, get in front of the right people. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and then I just wait for my heavenly postal service to get to my door, and then go for it from there. But yeah, for me, it really is. There's too many accounts that you have to worry about, and you got to subscribe to, you got to put into, and I don't have enough time in the day, nor the night, nor in my entire lifetime to put in when it comes to certain things. So I yield the mic.
Maccabee, thanks for sharing. You remind me of something that sometimes I will get a message from somebody that says, hopefully this will be your big break. Something's going on and they'll say, hopefully this will be your big break. And I almost take it as an insult. I'm like, big break. I'm just going to I'm going to swear here. I'm going to kick in the goddamn door. I don't need somebody to give me a break. So to your point, you put out hustle, you produce good content. It's going to happen. I don't need a favor or anything like that. It's just going to happen. That's my belief. Mr. Brian P. Swift, radio host extraordinaire, author extraordinaire. What say you on all this?
Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. I agree. There's too much out there. It's almost like, what's the flavor of the day? And everybody's chasing what the flavor of the day is. Um, but to some degree, you have to play some of that game. I don't believe you have to play all of it and be on everything. As to your comment, I hope you get a big break. It's not that somebody's doing you a favor always, Dom. Sometimes a good break is you kick in the right door. Not just we know that there's people like you out there that are doing everything they can, but sometimes we still need that break. As many doors as you kick in, you still have to kick in the right door, and sometimes it is a break. So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Okay, Brian, that's a good take on it. That I should just receive. They say when you open up if somebody gives you a blessing and you don't receive that blessing, you're actually taking it away from the other person. So I receive what you're saying, and I will do a better job when somebody offers me a compliment like that. At least I'll try
Definitely.
to.
And it's too, I got in a little bit late on talking about this OTT, new ways of getting your brand out there and producing movies. I think the door's opening more and more. I think Hollywood in the last 5 years hasn't done itself any favors with with a lot of stances they've taken. Um, I hear less and less people rallying around nights that there are all the, everybody used to watch the award shows, and you're just seeing less interest in it, less people taking the time for it. I think they've done them. I think they haven't done themselves any favors in a lot of ways, and I think that might be an open door for smaller opportunities. Whether through live streaming or whatnot, collaboration, which I hope there is. I don't wish any ill will on them, but they're. I think that maybe they got a little too big for their britches, and it is a very tight knit group. I get it, and I think it's time that nut gets cracked open. So I hope that the other things happen that allow smaller investors, other great minds, and their works to be shown out there. I'm complete.
Thanks, Brian. I'm surprised too, the feedback sometimes that I receive on stuff that's put on YouTube, where people will tell me they don't have TV or they don't have cable anymore. They got rid of this service or that service, and that's where they're actually watching their content at. Hey, Brian, would you, if you're open to it, would you explain the process you have with the radio show, how that works, or if you don't mind going down that path?
No, not at all.
Okay.
So yeah, talk about a crazy opportunity that fell on me. I mean, I have in all my years, no thought of being a radio host, but I had been on a couple shows because of the nonprofit that I run and because of the books that I publish to be able to get out there. So I knew a couple people from a station in the Chicagoland area that's been around for 93 years, and they survived being extremely local. They have 70 to 80,000 listeners. So a guy called me and said they had a spot open on Wednesdays. Would I be interested in doing a show? And I kind of was stumped, but I'm a guy who believes in, it never hurts to listen. So I listened, and he said, I can walk you through it. I can help you, show you how we do it. Basically it's 250 an episode. You have to go out and get sponsors. So I pulled the trigger on it. I committed to 3 months, and that was about 7 months ago. So now I'm on my third contract with them, and every Wednesday at 12:05 Central Standard Time, the Quad Father, All Things Inspirational show comes on the air. And what I do is I try to have guests, not all local, but I try to have a lot of local people, local guests, local businesses. But I've also been blessed to be able to get people like Lou Holtz, former head coach in Notre Dame football, Rudy Rudiker from the movie Rudy, and other professional athletes, Olympians. So a little bit of everything, caretakers, nurses, entrepreneurs. So I try to have a little bit of everybody on my show as a guest. And you don't have to. Obviously, you could call in, or I love having them in the studio. Maybe have this little room that would look like WKRP in Cincinnati, little room, and go in there. And I've got my guy Evan who runs the board, and we do about a 55 minute show on things that are inspirational, talk about local businesses, try to highlight some of them, or events that are coming up. And like I said, I'm going into my 7th month. It's been interesting. It's been fun so far. I've been blessed with getting sponsors, and I'd like to take that further and see if it, maybe syndication and who knows what. Dom, or I don't know if people know, Dom and I also we wrote a screenplay. So talk about the movie thing. Yeah, we would love to push that up the line eventually with something we've been working on when we have a chance. So it's just been a fun adventure, an exciting road. That's one of those things where you don't wait for all the answers to move forward, and because I had very few answers for this radio show, and I'm hoping it does give us a break somewhere along the line to maybe get our screenplay seen, or maybe we need to make changes to it, as we've talked about, and the whole idea is to inspire others and help. So I'm complete.
Brian, thanks, man, and thanks for clearing that up about the radio too. Just another opportunity. Hey, let's meet Dimple, and then we are going to go to Dr. Tachi, and she's going to talk to us about unboxing and just the theory behind it. So, Dimple, let me see. I've never met Dimple before. Join my Launch Your Podcast Masterclass. Okay, view full profile. I'm going to continue here, Dimple. Hold on. What can I help you with? Website design, SEO, market strategy, Instagram coach, podcasting, mesmerizing marketing. Dimple, welcome. How are you doing today? What do you got for us?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm Dimple. I'm the host of the Mesmerizing Marketing Podcast.
Hey, hold on, Dimple. Your voice is really light. Maybe, yeah,
Oh, hold on. Is that better?
it's lovely. Go on.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. I'm Dimple, and I'm the host of the Mesmerizing Marketing Podcast. And I'm multitasking here, so I'm listening to you guys. And I think what you're talking about is that there's so many things out there. There's Clubhouse, there's podcasting, there's social media. How do you handle it all, or how do you figure out what it is that you should be focusing on? And I would say is like when it comes to, for example, podcasting, a lot of people launch a podcast, but they never take the time to come up with a marketing strategy to promote their show. And I think that's also an important element of launching a new show, is to have a plan of how you're going to promote your show, how you're going to get more people to, learn about your show. And I think it takes a bit of effort and planning to do that, because I even, promote old episodes, and I notice whenever I promote them, I can look at the analytics and it's tied to promoting them on social media, whether it happens to be Pinterest or Instagram or LinkedIn or wherever. But I think that if you can do these things in a way where you can pick one or two things that you're comfortable with and commit to working on those, whether it's launching a podcast, having your show, whether it's, making reels for TikTok, whether it's going live or having a YouTube channel. Like, you're not expected to do it all, but if you pick one or two things that you are excited about that you can commit to, I think that's the way to go. And, then you can have success on that one platform and go from there. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Dimple. And when you talk about the platforms you're excited about, or the things you're excited about, can you elaborate on that just briefly?
Yeah, as far as you mean me personally or like in general?
I mean, let's say, like, I like the NBA. I like doing reels. I like video. I like smoking cigars, drinking beer. How do I get it down?
Yeah. So, it's interesting. Yeah, you bring that up because
You got your light on us. Your voice went light again.
Oh, sorry. Hold on. I have my charger and maybe I should take it out. Okay, so yeah, that's interesting that you bring that up because, yesterday I was doing a room and we were talking about, how do you build a mesmerizing personal brand? And I think the key is really to analyze where your target audience hangs out. Where do the people hang out that you want to work with, that you want to do business with? And based on where they hang out, that's where you need to hang out. That's where you need to be creating content and spending your time. So, like one platform that may work for someone else may not work for the other person, right? Because maybe for some people, Instagram is the platform where they need to create content and be on. But for other people, it might be LinkedIn. So I think it's really having a clear idea of your client avatar and knowing who they are, even like down to like, oh, are they male? Are they female? What's the age range? What are their interests? What are their spending habits? What do they like to do? Where do they like to hang out? And I think it's about going where they are, because then that gives you more visibility. And then from there, you can create content that's pertinent to that particular social media channel. So that's how I would suggest doing that.
I'm gonna jump in here and kind of echo what Dimple's saying, but I want to take it one step further, and I want to be I want to be very clear. I'm going to give you a 2-step process for doing this, right? So the first step is, Dimple's 100% right. You identify your ideal audience, right? You identify your target demographic. You figure out who your client avatar is, right? Down to detail. Who is this person you're trying to reach, right? And where are they, right? And then you deliver value to those people. And that value can come in a lot of different forms. It can come through information. It can come through entertainment. It can come through all kinds of things, right? But you deliver value to those people and you associate that value with your brand. Period. That's all you got to do. It's 2 steps. Who's your ideal customer? Identify your customer and deliver value to them where they are. That's it. It's that simple.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Dimple. Glad you're here. Okay, we're going to, let's reset. See, I'm getting better at this. Clubhouse, publishing, podcasting, and social media. We talk about all these things every Wednesday. We have a club. If you'd like to join the club, you'll get pings and stuff like that. We do 1 room a week, so we're not going to be pinging you thousands of times and things like that. And this is the subjects we talk about. You never know what Tom brought. What was it? Paramount Accords today, and that's where we got started with. And now we're into what social media is best or which one's wasting your time. So we go all over the place. But we're gonna, Dr. Tachi, we're coming back to you for the unboxing. You were doing something called unboxing. And there's the clearly, I'm going to show you, so I bought something and I'm going to show you something. But Dr. Tachi, there was a little more to it when you did that. And then we're going to go to our friend Johnny. Johnny, I think he got another new picture too. Okay, Dr. Tachi, go on.
So I did another unboxing video before. And what I did was, instead of being in it, it was actually just my hands unboxing. So the whole purpose of these videos is to, if you're stuck for content and you're looking for something to do, we all use things believe in, etc. Even if you don't necessarily have a partnership, that maybe an unboxing is a way to do it. So an unboxing slash review. I have a red bar, so hopefully you can hear me. An unboxing slash, sometimes that could be a review. So what I did is I got a little makeup pack from my friendly neighborhood Walgreens, the beauty consultant there. I go in there all the time and we talk. And she put something in my bag when I was leaving the last time. I said, I have something for you. You'll love it. Not knowing it was going to be all these wonderful full-size products. So I said, I'm going to talk about this. This is something that I got. And I'm not a beauty vlogger. I don't normally talk about it, but people do know me for makeup and clothing and all of that, and fashion, etc. So that's not the main thing I talk about, but it is something associated and adjacent to what I talk about. So I figured this is not off the mark, because it's not like, oh, I just went and bought, this new lipstick and I'm going to do a review on it. But you know me for media, tech, and pop culture. It's something that I do anyway. I get questions every time about what eyeshadow I'm wearing, what lipstick I'm wearing. So it's not off the mark. So I decided to do that to serve as a review, or not a review, but an unboxing of what I got from Walgreens, from Zofia at Walgreens, in addition to the message of, that's why it pays to be nice to people, because you never know how you're going to benefit from that. And because I treat her with respect every time and we have nice conversations, she saw fit to put that in there. And also that if you're looking for content to produce and you're stuck, maybe think about something that you can, quote, unbox or review. So that's what that was about.
And I think the thing there that's important to highlight is, was it outside of the normal sort of scope of the kind of content you produce? Yes, right? But it still felt authentic to you, right? And your brand and the messaging that you want to convey to your audience and to your community, right? And so therefore, it was 100% a good idea to do and completely fair game to do, right? Because it was authentic to you and your brand, right? So authenticity ultimately is what really matters. So it's not about, oh, I only do unboxing videos or I only do this. If you find a creator Like I would challenge anybody in this room, anybody listening, anybody watching the live, anybody listening to the replay. I dare you to find a creator that has only ever done one kind of video or one kind of piece of content. They don't exist, right? They all branch into different things. They touch on different things that all feel authentic to them. So if it feels authentic to you, if it's authentic to you, your brand and your messaging, it's fair game. Don't feel like you can't do it because you don't typically do unboxing videos, right? And I think the story that Dr. Tachi just shared is a perfect example of that. If it's authentic, it's fair game. Go for it.
Beautiful. And I thought it was important to jump on Dr. Tachi's unboxing because so many people think about this is in this room every week. We seem to talk about content creation and how to create it. And people will say, I'm overwhelmed. I can't create enough. I don't know what to produce. And I'm a big one on document what's going on. Turn that phone around. Let me see where you're working at today. Let me see what your desk looks like. Let me see what the studio looks like. Let me see what your handwriting looks like when you're writing your book. People want that stuff. So Dr. Tachi, the unboxing is another creative way. Well, yeah, you could open something, but you could also review something, anything that's on message with what you're doing. Hey, I have a question for you, Tom, Dr. Tachi, Julie, you want to answer? So I do show bikes and hikes. When I started doing bikes and hikes, I was worried. I'm like, uh-oh, with me, I never want to be off message. Right? And here's a person I try to share inspiration, help other people share inspiration. And at first, I'm like, uh-oh, is this too far off message? But then in my mind, I'm like, no, we're going out, we're living life, we're having fun, we're laughing. So that's why I thought it was, but I've always in my head, I'm like, uh-oh. So what do you think? And then we're going to meet our main man, Johnny. So if anybody has anything, go on, Tom.
I'm going to jump in real quick, and then Dr. Tachi, I promise I'll stop talking so you have a chance to say something too. But my first thought is like, look, I have my whole methodology, my whole system that I've developed, the strategy that I've developed that I call legendeering is all built around creating content that is not about your products and services, right? That is not directly related to your products and services. So I 100% think that, again, bikes and hikes is related to what you guys are doing. The exploration you're doing is encouraging people to step out of their comfort zones, to look around, to take in the world around them, and to be motivated and inspired by the things that are in their backyards, right? And that's perfectly on message for you and your brand with Motivation Champs. And while it's not directly related to specifically the work that you do, right, it's providing value to an audience that is also the audience that could be your ideal customer, right? The type of people that enjoy that content on bikes and hikes are the type of people who might also be potential clients or referral partners for Motivation Champs. So I think it's 100% like perfectly aligned with what you're doing. It again, like businesses often think very linearly when it comes to content, right? Because they're thinking about like their content is a brochure for their product, right? Or their service. So they've got to it's all information driven for a lot of businesses. It's who we are, what we sell, how much it costs, how to get a hold of us. Here's our phone number, here's our address, here's our website, here's our and it shouldn't be about any of that really. It should be about delivering value to your community first, right? And then tying that value to your brand. And if you do those two things well, then the content will be successful for you long term, right? People don't need to be beaten over the head about what you sell and how much it costs. They have to care about you and your brand first. And then you have to provide them with the opportunity to act on that emotional attachment to your brand, right? And that's what tying that content to your brand does. So that's what I would say on that. I think bikes and hikes makes a ton of sense for you to be involved with. Dr. Tachi, what do you think?
Again, I am co-signing on everything you say. It shows your humanity as well. This is something that you're interested in. We could go and follow a droid or a robot if we want somebody who's only going to speak about one thing. And like you're right, Tom, many businesses and many people think about things linearly, whereas if it's not 100% related to what I'm doing for business, then it's off brand. And this is something, from the research world. Whenever you're going to, you have a research question and you're looking to conduct some research, they always ask, when you're looking for your literature review, students would always say, well, I can't find an article that's exactly like what I want to do. And I always tell them, it doesn't have to be exactly what you're researching. It could be something adjacent. So if you're looking at women and their propensity to buy makeup because of television commercials, or like Asian women, if you can't find an article on Asian women, you can probably find an article on women or something else related, or even men, whatever the case may be. But you can find other things that lead to it. So my point in that is saying that it doesn't have to be 100% related to what you're doing, because you can make it applicable, and then it also shows your humanity that you do other things beyond that somebody who also likes what it is that you're doing, that likes bikes and hikes, they're going to latch on to you. And there's that whole halo effect. Well, if this guy likes bikes and hikes, he must be good in other things he does, because that's how we think. So I release the mic.
All right, you guys are getting a link. Johnny, we're coming to you. And then Julie, Julie has been putting out she puts out great, you talked about giving value, Dr. Tachi. So she's been putting out these almost like newsletters, and they're so informative that I find myself making sure I share them with everybody I can. So Johnny, it looks like you got a new picture. It's not the one day he had Fruit Loops behind him. Let's zoom in on this. He's got his own gear now too. Look at this, back of the cereal box gear. Okay, Johnny, what's happening, my friend?
Good morning, friends and foes. And Dom, you're not paying attention. I've had that picture for now 2 weeks, and I've had that hoodie since the very beginning of Back of the Cereal Box. What's going on, man? Are you getting senile in your old age?
I gotta up my social media to 9 hours a day.
So
go on.
So here's the thing. For those of you who don't know me, I am a multidisciplined entertainer and storyteller. I'm a magician, author, and podcaster, host of the Back of the Cereal Box podcast, among other things. But talking about social media, I always recommend that, people, yes, they find what works best for them. Exactly what has been said is that you discover where your audience lives and focus on that. My audience is on Facebook. And that's where we're getting engagement. That's where we're getting views. I can post the exact same thing on the exact same video, a short, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram. YouTube will get maybe, 100 views. TikTok, maybe 45. Instagram, maybe 25. But on Facebook, close to 1,000. That's the difference. However, and I wish I could just quit all of the other social platforms and focus only on Facebook, because that's where my return on investment is. However, that's where my audience is, but the people I want to collaborate with, the other podcasters, the other content creators that I would like to work with, are on Instagram. So I have to be there to have a presence. I hate Instagram. I don't think I don't find any return on investment. I don't like creating for it, but that's where people that I can collaborate with live, not my audience. So I'm trying to think of ways to completely change what we do on Instagram away from being audience driven to collaborator driven. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I'm seeing, and that's what I'm working through right now. I'm Johnny. I'm done. Ta-da!
Johnny, man, thank you. I appreciate it. And what are your thoughts, just as a group here, on Instagram no longer being really a photo app? Have you guys, and meaning, I don't go on to TikTok and not make videos, right? I'm on TikTok. I make videos for TikTok. I love TikTok. I like it. It's cool. I get it. It's right. It's up my alley. So as our friend said before, I enjoy it there. But on Instagram now, even like I think that was the founder said, we are no longer a photo sharing app. So are we missing the boat if we just share pictures there and aren't 100% video? So Johnny, I'll hit you on that first, and then anybody else that wants to comment on it.
All right. So here's my thing about Instagram, and yes, they are. They want you to do reels, and the big marketing brands have, in some cases, they've gone back and they've taken down static pictures. I follow WWE on Instagram, and they've gone back and they've removed static images, and the only thing on their Instagram now is reels. And that's great if, one, you have the time to create that content. And everyone says, well, just repurpose what you've already done. Well, I do an hour to an hour and a half show every week, and sometimes multiple times a week. So finding the bandwidth to go in and find the 30-second clip that is going to resonate on Instagram and then edit it, format it for Instagram is a heavy lift. So other people are like, well, Johnny, you do magic. Just do magic tricks on Instagram. I'm a storytelling magician. Nothing I do can be done in 30 seconds or a minute. Everything I do is long form. So Instagram just does not meet my professional style. It doesn't meet my personal style. It doesn't meet my process workflow style. Everything about Instagram is painful to me. Everything about TikTok is painful to me. But I got to be there because that's where the people I want to collaborate with are.
Thank you, Johnny. And it's interesting when he so articulately speaks about it and explains why this works for him or why it doesn't. Where I'm the reverse. Like TikTok for me is so simple. I can add some filters, I do 30 seconds. As an author, I only want to do 1 minute. Like, because I write, 50,000 word books or whatever, help people. So I don't want to give you the full story. I never want to give you the full story, except I'm giving you clips, short, whatever, antidotes, or antidotes. We learned about that word one day. Anyway. All right. So, okay, Julie, you need to tell us, because I threw you under the bus, the articles you are putting out, writing, I'm presuming, but I know sometimes you work with services too. So, Julie, explain that, and they are brilliant. So I'm giving you credit otherwise, and then we're going to go to Tracy and anybody that wants to jump in, flash your mic, whatever. But Julie, go on.
Thank you, Dom. That was so nice of you. And to be honest, I had this moment where I was just banging my head. I'm like, I spend way too much time doing all these things on social media. Yes, it's necessary, but the ROI isn't there, at least for me. And what is the thing I know I can do well and I love to do? I love writing. So I decided, was very decisive, to pitch myself to magazines. Instead of spending this energy, I feel like I was just toiling. And sometimes I just get caught up on it. And I think people are told, the more you do, and it's addictive, the more you do, the better you'll become an influencer. You're an influencer with 1 follower. So I pitched myself. Now I'm writing for Entrepreneur Magazine, which I think has a lot more gravitas than doing something, writing a post on Facebook. I think, and I'm also a contributor now to mindvalley.com. It's just, where do you put your energy? And you can translate all those things to LinkedIn or Twitter or to Facebook or not really Instagram, but I just know what my strengths are. My strengths are writing and connecting people. And, I apparently, and I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but apparently, like the editors thought I was a good enough writer to be a regular contributor. So, and then you can use, one thing you can use is this tool called Deliver It. If you are doing podcasts and blogs and have an RSS feed, you can use I think it's dlvr.it. There's a free version. I think I mentioned this before. And whenever you have a podcast come out or a blog or whatever, it automatically uploads to all your different social media. So makes it a lot easier. Thanks, guys. Dom and Tom, share the room, everybody.
Thanks, Julie. Yeah, and I think that's a good point. When I talk about media, I use the word media a lot, and I think often people jump to the conclusion or think of social media when I talk about media, and I don't necessarily, right? Like, I am not a huge proponent of social media over other forms of media or distribution channels for content, right? So I 100% believe that you should seek out the distribution channels that work best for you, that are authentic to you and your brand and the kind of content you create for the community that you serve, and not.
Can I add just one more thing, Tom, really
Yeah,
quickly?
go for it. Yeah, get in there.
Another thing that I saw Deshaun, and he reminded me of this. Another thing is, you cannot forget about Google, and you need to have a Google business. I think that's the most important tip I could give anybody. If you don't have a Google business right now, then start thinking about getting a Google business, because that's how I get picked up. That's how I organically get people calling me, clients, through my Google business, when they can find you on Google. And I specifically knew when I was pitching Entrepreneur Magazine that it would bring my presence on Google through the roof, and it already has. When it just, do not forget about Google business, and think a little bit bigger sometimes than just social media. So I'm sorry, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. I think, at the end of the day, social media is one part or one place where you can reach community. It is not the only place. So, like, if Instagram isn't authentic to you and your brand and your community, then don't go crazy on Instagram. Don't drive yourself nuts trying to grow a huge community on Instagram. If that's not authentic to you and your community isn't there, then, like, you're wasting your time, right? And same thing on Facebook, same thing on Twitter. The odds are, like, most folks who you see who are big creators, right? They will have a main channel, right, where they focus most of their energy, and then they have a presence, right? So, like, take a big YouTube creator, right? They'll have a presence on Instagram, they'll have a presence on Facebook, they'll have a presence on TikTok, but their main focus is the content that they create and distribute through YouTube. And then a lot of those creators will also have a Patreon page where you can get exclusive content, right? So it's about, I think, as a creator, as a brand, it's important to have an omni-channel presence, to be present on a lot of different media channels, even if your focus is just on one, right? So be present, right? Distribute on a bunch of different channels, but, like, make that as streamlined a process as possible, and then focus on your main distribution channel where your community exists, where they live, where they spend a lot of time, right? And, for Johnny, that's Facebook, right? but it's not necessarily going to be Facebook for somebody else or a different brand or a different content creator, right? So like it depends on who your community is and where they live, but I think it is important to have a presence on a lot of different channels. That doesn't mean you have to spend, hours and hours and hours of your time trying to build a following on TikTok. If TikTok isn't really your audience, but you should and to Julie's point, the more places that your brand exists on the internet, right, the more opportunity people have to find you organically or via search, right? So the more places you exist, like my business, if somebody Googles Talex Media, they're going to get a whole page of results, but it's because I have a presence on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and and TikTok and LinkedIn and whatever, Twitter, right? So and Twitch. So you'll get a whole page of results, but that's because I have a presence. Now, do I spend hours every day on all of those channels? Absolutely not. Right. So there's value in it, even if you don't put a ton of effort into each one of those channels. So that's, I think omni-channel presence is important in this day and age.
I wanted to jump in on this for two odd, like complete opposites. As a publisher, written word. I'm looking at the article because I saw the number the other day. Book Talk, it's a hashtag on TikTok. Book Talk has 77 billion views. So for my authors, I believe people spend a lot of time on TikTok. In fact, 77 billion times they viewed the hashtag. That's just that hashtag. So when you look, wow, why should I be here? Why should I, like to Tom's point, omnipresence? I'm not saying I love the written word. Spend your time on the written word. But 77 billion people did look at that one hashtag. So if possible, if it fits into your time, if it's easy, if you can do it, if it doesn't freak you out, I might figure out how to share my book and use the hashtag book talk. So, okay, Tom, we're done at 11 today. So we're going to meet Tracy, Lauren, Matt, Deshaun, and Craig. We're going to do it quicker. So, but Tracy, all you guys ask a question, share a tip, and introduce yourself. So that's where we'll go. We'll just move a little quicker now. Tracy, what do you got?
Hi, guys. Oh, thank you so much for this room. Very informative because I'm a massage healer for 20 years and in the fitness. So transitioning a little bit into, kind of the online Instagram, Clubhouse, all the Facebook stuff, that was not my specialty. So I'm learning a lot. So I greatly appreciate it. I definitely feel like Julie was saying, um, figuring out like what your focus is because you want to get a return on your investment and on your time investment. So that's kind of where I've been struggling, trying to figure out, because when I first started about a year with my business Bodies and Mama, I started on Instagram, and of course it was all like photos, so it was kind of easier because I'm a mom and I take care of my sister who has CP, so I didn't have a ton of time, and now it's like all the videos. And I just like recently have felt so overwhelmed trying to like create the reels because I notice when I just do like a photo, it like 2 people view it, you know what I mean? Versus your reels where you get hundreds. So I don't know. I guess I just have I'm trying to find my clarity as what to do. I'm all about healing and health and, trying to get people to connect mind, body, consciousness. So this has been a great room. I love all this information. I don't know if you have any like advice as to, I haven't gone on TikTok only because like I just felt overwhelmed with all like the video stuff. I don't know if repurposing videos is the best thing, if that's what you would recommend. Dominick, Tom, Julie, Johnny. Facebook, I feel like it's mostly like my friends and family. I haven't created just like a group for that. So I feel like they support me, like, yay, cheerleader, but they're not really into, purchasing product or stuff like that. So, and then a lot of my time is spent with clients because I still have a pretty big massage business that I do. So, and I do love that. Like, that's my total passion. I love helping people heal. So I just feel like just a little chaotic and trying to figure out where to focus the time that I do have on, developing my brand and creating a community. So any advice would be great. Thank you so much, guys.
I think, I don't know if you were in the room earlier, Tracy, when we were talking, but with Dimple. But basically, I think I'll say again what I said then. It's a two-step process, right? You identify your ideal community, the community that you want to serve, your sort of ideal customer. You identify that avatar, and then you deliver value to them where they are, right? So that value comes in a lot of different ways, but I think as long as you kind of follow a process that lines up with those two steps, then I think you're going to end up in the right place. And remember, this is a long game, right? Even when you hear of somebody who seems like an overnight success, or has a post or a video go quote unquote viral on social media, if you look back, those people have probably been posting for years, right? They've been creating content for years before something actually goes viral and big, right? Months or years go into making those things happen. So just remember, it's a long game. It's about delivering consistently for that community and building trust through that consistency. So just, you got to keep moving forward and delivering that value to your community.
Hey, and I want to just jump in here real quick, talking about posts or things going viral. And Tom's absolutely right. Sometimes people labor for years before something hits. But here's the other thing. Don't put all your eggs in that basket, because I've had posts go viral on social media, over 2 million views on one post, and then the next one, 14. So just because something goes viral doesn't mean you're going to stay viral. So don't put all your eggs into that basket. That would be my one thing.
Yeah, Johnny, I'm there with Johnny on that one. There's times where you get all those views and you're like, yes, you're watching the views roll. They roll by thousands or tens of thousands. And you're like, wow, this is so cool. And I will tell you, those videos that I've had that hit those numbers, higher numbers like that, they weren't my best videos. They weren't the videos that I cared the most about. They weren't the videos that somebody commented and made the most impact. So it's almost probably just lock nature, the right time, right place. But the best stuff was the stuff where somebody called you up and said, hey, because of this video, I did this or this or this, and those ones. So Tracy, my answer to your question is put out the content you believe in, make a difference. Even if it's one person, you made a difference in one life. If it's 2, more power to you. If it's 5, wow. So just start, because every one of us got into whatever we're doing to change one life, make a difference here. And then along the way, sometimes we get, I want 1 million. I want sure, down the road. But we all started to change one life. So change that life. Go on. Tom,
I just want to add one thing, like that I absolutely did not mean to imply that if you stick it out long enough, you will go viral, right? That's not at all what I meant to imply. Counting on something going viral on social media being transformative for your business is like counting on winning the lottery as your retirement plan, right? It's a fool's errand. You cannot count on it, right? So do not count on virality or posts going viral on social media being transformative for your business. That's not a good long-term strategy, right? That's not why you're doing it. You're not doing it to go viral. You're doing it to build a community and to deliver value to that community.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Tom. Okay, we are going to meet Matt, Deshaun, and Craig. Matt's got the best background. I like beaches. I like sunset. So, Matt, what do you got going on for us? Give us a tip or ask a question.
Well, hey, thanks. Yeah, I'm out here in Santa Cruz, so I've got a nice background. Yeah, so I'm kind of just really listening and learning. I, have a full-time job, but then I started Santa Cruz Mountain Essentials, which is an outdoors brand. And so I've been developing outdoor apparel and outdoor equipment. And so right now I'm working on a couple product launches that hopefully I'll be ready to bring to market in a couple months. So once I do that, I'm going to be completely revamping my website and getting more into marketing on social media. So I guess listening to all this has been really helpful, kind of picking up tips and tricks. So thank you for having me.
Matt, thanks, man. Come back anytime. We're here every Wednesday. We're move on. I
And
said,
join the club so you get alerted every time the room pops up. Join the club.
Join the club. I said, you said move on. Okay. Deshaun, what do you got? Deshaun's the man. I follow Deshaun. Deshaun, ask a question, drop a tip. What do you got, my man?
Hey, so one tip that I have is I don't know if Julie Loken had already said it or not because I did come in while she was speaking, but I personally do not have a website, and she always told me, she said, if you're not going to have a website, at least make a podcast website. And so she referred me to Podpage, and getting on Podpage yesterday, I realized that it helps a lot of podcasters because instead of you having to ask someone, hey, what platform do you use to listen to podcasts on? You can give them your Podpage website link, and it lets them either listen to it on the website or through whichever platform you are available on. And you can literally post each platform on that website. So, like yesterday, found out that the podcast was on 25 different platforms, which was exciting. But also, Pandora has been one of the hardest platforms to get on when it came to podcasts. And as of yesterday, I found out that Pandora and Stitcher both use Simplecast to distribute podcasts onto their platforms. And now all you have to do is get your RSS feed, put it in, and submit it. And right there on the spot, you get a link for Pandora and you get a link for Stitcher. So that's definitely good because it helps you distribute out to more channels. So those were a few tips and tricks that I have for today.
Hey, Deshaun, we appreciate them. Every one of those tips helps. And if somebody leaves this room and they pick up one thing that any of us said and they're able to add that to their repertoire, well, I think maybe we did a good job today. We did all right. So let's meet our friend Craig, and then I like to be lazy at the end. I like to put all the pressure on Tom. I like to complain that I've talked too much. So we're going to meet Craig. Craig, nice to see you here. Thanks for stopping by. I'm going to push follow. Look, I push follow. I now follow. I try to follow everybody. So Craig, hold on here. I love helping others understand content marketing. That's what it says. Craig, introduce yourself, ask a question, or drop a tip for us. Go on.
G'day everyone. It's quite late here in Australia, so it's almost 1 a.m. But I've loved the conversation of the room. I only wish that it was a bit earlier, and I've got to speak as quietly as possible. But I've really loved everything that everyone said here, and I picked up on some things that Tom was sharing in particular. And I look at social media based on whether I feel a slave to a particular platform or whether a platform works for me. So I separate social media and what I refer to as modern media. So modern media for me is podcasting, YouTube, blogging, social audio, it would be an example. And platforms that work for me are things like Pinterest and Reddit, because they're found, they're searchable, and people can save the content that you create, as well as YouTube and podcasts and things like that, because people are searching for those things. Whereas with, your Instagrams and your TikToks and Facebook, you're constantly a slave to those particular platforms. So, modern media for me is a democratization of what we know as traditional media, which is your newspapers, which is replaced by blogging today, your radio, which is replaced by podcasting and spoken word audio, like audiobooks today. So we're definitely seeing a shift and a revolution in, what media actually is and who is creating media. So for me, the opportunity lies in what Tom said is in bringing value. And it comes back to something that most of our parents probably told us when we were all kids, which is, make yourself useful. So if you're not bringing value to your audience, then you're probably not going to find an audience. So make sure, if you're, looking to see how you can, put or get yourself out into the world to have a little bit of potential influence, then, give yourself some reach, respect, and revenue, I like to say. Then make sure you're producing some piece of content that's valuable, and make sure you understand that your time and attention is devoted to platforms that, algorithms are going to help, you be discovered, which is like things like Google. And having your own website's extremely important. It's like double dipping when you put a podcast or embed a YouTube video into your, your website. And Google's just upgraded, their algorithms to favor, websites with videos. So, take advantage of what they're offering you. And, that way you can create content that works for you 24/7, instead of you being a slave to social media. So thanks for the opportunity to speak. I have been in these rooms before, but they're quite late. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for being here, Craig. Really appreciate you being here, and thanks for your thoughts on that. I think, I couldn't agree more. I think people get caught up, and I say this a lot for anybody who's in this room often. They'll hear me say that, if you get caught up in the algorithm, trying to figure out what the algorithms are on different platforms is a fool's errand. It's a waste of time. All you need to know about the algorithms on social media platforms in particular is that they're designed to keep you on that particular platform for as long as possible, right? That's all you need to know. That's at the end of the day, that is the motivating factor behind all of them. So trying to crack how to, hacking the algorithm and all that stuff is just, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of effort. I think you're better off just working towards delivering value for your community. Like you said, and my parents used to say to me all the time when I was a kid, so I definitely identify with that, make yourself useful. And I think of the content you create and the way you speak to your audience the same way you would think of them if you're standing on a stage in front of a crowd, right? If you're standing on a stage in front of a crowd, what are you going to do? You're going to deliver for that audience. You're going to deliver for that crowd. You're not just going to talk about yourself. You're going to make sure that they get the value that they're after by being in that audience, right? By buying a ticket to be in that space and to share that space with you. So put your audience first. It's about them. It's not about you, right? Put them first. Create value for your audience, for your community. I like to use the word community because I like that better than audience as a way to think about what you're trying to build around your business and your brand through your content, through your marketing efforts, right? Is you're building a community, right? And a community is built around an exchange of value, right? So you provide value to your community, you tie that value to your brand, your community provides value to your brand, which enables you to continue providing value for that community, and on the cycle goes. And that is the kind of world that I'm trying to build with my work. That is the world that I want to live in, where we interact with the businesses in our lives by exchanging value with them rather than by them trying to extract as much cash out of our pockets as they possibly can, as quickly as they can. That's why I think there is so much opportunity coming up with the sunsetting of the Paramount Accords and the transition that we're going to see in traditional media that's already happening now, but in the coming year, it'll become very clear to everyone that there's a transformation happening in traditional media. And I think we have a ton of opportunity as brands and businesses and content marketing folks to really take advantage of that transition and deliver for our communities and set ourselves apart from traditional media, who are right now acting purely in the interest of short-term profitability and not in the interest of long-term prosperity for them and for their community. So that's where my focus always is. I'm always thinking about long-term prosperity, not short-term profitability. And that's the way I would encourage everyone else to think about building a community around their brand and the content they create to deliver value to their audience. And I think for me, that is a good place to leave it today. How do you feel about that, Dom? Is that a good place for you to leave it too?
Hey, it was fabulous as always. I'm going to steal your wrap up. So we appreciate every one of you for coming in this room. If you spend 1 minute with us, 10 minutes, an hour, if you're like Dr. Tachi and you come by, and Johnny, and you come by here and there, we appreciate you. Deshaun, if you're new today, this is what we do. We talk about all these different things, but without you guys facilitating the conversation, pushing us down these paths, asking questions, it doesn't happen. So we are appreciative. Tom, that's all I got, man. Just thanks and gratitude.
All right, man. I echo that sentiment. Tons of gratitude for me. Thanks to everyone for being here. And we will see you guys next week. We'll close the room out now.
Thank you so much.
3, 2, 1, we're out. See ya.
Bye, everybody.